On our podcast show this week, I've got 20 questions as a new EV owner. Yes, I finally got my Volkswagen ID4 and it's an AW.
I'm clapping for you.
Oh, right. AW Pro S version, right? With all the trims. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, now I'm a complete noob when it comes to electric vehicles. And that's why I have 20 questions for our resident EV advocate and co-host, Stephen Fong.
How you doing?
Who has over 3 years or more at owning and driving an electric vehicle. Now, I'll be asking questions like, what's the difference between a level 1 and level 2 charger? How long does it take to charge an electric vehicle? And are all the charging stations the same? We'll ask all these questions and more. So stay tuned and we'll answer those pretty soon. So before we actually continue, let's ask Stephen what he's been up to, and has he had any electric vehicle adventures lately?
Yes, actually I have. First of all, these questions, I haven't seen them yet. So they will be a surprise to me as well too. So this will exercise my knowledge in EV technology. So if I do screw up, please call me out on it. I can only get better. And as far as EV trips go, I did go to a place called Kimberley, BC, which is about 1,000 kilometers from, just under 1,000 kilometers from where we are. We took a bit of a roundabout way. And what I found out is that the infrastructure in BC has gotten a lot better in a lot of places.
Okay.
There were EV chargers, DC fast chargers in places that I didn't actually believe that they would put one. Like there was a set of flow chargers in a very, very small town. I can't remember what it was called. We just drove right past them like, oh my God, those are DC fast chargers. What the heck are they doing here? And they are listed on the BC Hydro and the Flow apps, which are resident local utilities that are providing DC fast charging to the masses in British Columbia, which means that travel will be a lot faster. On the downside, though, I noticed that one of the busiest tourist spots, which is called Radium, BC, it's a really scenic town in the middle of the Rockies. It only just added their second DC fast charger, which I thought was, it took them long enough to add the second, but they really need more because I rolled in at around 8:15 a.m. in the morning, and then immediately after I rolled in, a Tesla wanted to take advantage of the charger. Thankfully, he wasn't able to charge at all because it rejected him.
All right.
So another CCS fast charging vehicle would be able to take the second spot. But very, very, I think it's very, I'm pleased to see the growth.
So 1,000 kilometers. So in terms of travel, during that 1,000 kilometers, you need to charge a few times, right?
You need to, depending on the routes, you might need to charge more because if you're going into the Canadian Rockies, this is not comparable than if you were in the middle of Ohio. Where our friend Shannon Robb is. Make sure that you see his interview, which is from Computex. That was posted probably a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
He's a really fun guy if you want to get into the tech industry, has a lot to share. But it depends on the terrain as well too, because electric vehicle is mostly affected by two things. Number one, the speed that you're going at.
Yeah.
So in the Rockies, you can go up to 120, maybe even 130 kilometers an hour, depending on where you are on the straight stretches. It's extremely twisty in some spots. So holding those speeds, you may not be able to normally, but an EV can. In a lot of cases, when you are going those speeds, you use a lot more power, but you're also going on an incline. So as an EV owner, when you're looking at the power meter, which is actually measured in kilowatt hour or kilowatts, you'll see it go up to 60 or more heading up a hill. So if you had to go up a hill for half an hour, you would lose probably half your battery in most vehicles.
Oh, okay.
But you regain it all back on regen on the way down the hill.
Okay.
So that's something to note.
And you also mentioned Kimberley is the town that you went to, right?
Yeah, we went to Kimberley.
And along the way, is that a main kind of road? It's like a highway, or it's just one of those windy country roads?
I would probably classify this as a windy country road because it's not a 4-lane highway. It's not like what you would see in anywhere else.
And with that, are there differences in driving in terms of a highway and windy country roads? So the differences are
The difference, what you would notice would be immediately that a windy country road would be more undulating. So there would be ups and downs. So that was actually really good for an EV because it can regen on the way down. It can also, it'll use very little power because it's always fluctuating through those turns. You're also using, you're also a lot slower. You're probably maybe going 90. Which is pretty optimal for most EVs, especially ones that only have one single gear. There are EVs that actually have a gearbox inside, which have 2 gears. So there's like what you would consider an overdrive.
Sports kind of car.
The Taycan has 2 gears. So vehicles in that class, I believe the Lucid also has a second gear as well too, but they don't really call it a gear. It's just a second. Yeah, I guess if you wanted to be very technical about it, would be a second gear. It actually a bigger cog because the torque would allow it to revolve and send you off with lower RPM. Yeah.
Okay, so interesting adventures with Stephen lately. Okay, so let's start with the 5 questions. The first 5 questions. Right. First one: is it the right time to buy an EV as gas prices are going up?
Well, what we've seen in British Columbia is that gas prices are hovering above $2 and above. All right,
it's crazy.
You used to drive a Tiguan, which is a $120 tank.
It's a massive tank,
right?
It's a SUV style class.
So, and then every time you drive, you would get no more than 11.6 liters per 100 kilometers. So 11.6 liters would cost you $23.
We're filling the gas tank $150 per time.
Yeah.
And we have to do it twice, at least twice a month. So it's over $300 a month.
So if you do it by distance, that's only probably about to Vancouver and back. That's only 3 round trips.
Yeah, it's kind of like, because my wife goes to work every day and she drives to just not into downtown, Granville, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of in between.
It's about 3 round trips for her.
Yeah.
3 to 5 round trips. That's $150.
Yeah.
Just to get down to Vancouver. Your transit is a lot cheaper.
So she has to fill it at least twice a month and 150, 160 at each time. So it's over $300 a month.
That's right. So that's amazing.
That's a crazy.
That's a crazy amount. And that's not to mention that you also have oil changes and all the other gas things that happen at regular intervals. So you're actually, in some months, you might pay that plus your service plan as well too.
Yeah. So like I said, we last year there was a chip shortage and also shipping costs and everything. So now everything's kind of slowly getting back to normal. We're seeing shipments of EVs available now.
Yes.
Landing on the road.
Yep.
Of course, we got myself a ID4, but other electric vehicles are available right now. And again, is it the right time to buy? I think it is. What do you think?
I think it depends on what vehicle you want. If you need something today, there's only certain brands that will be able to deliver today. I think that the reason why you got your ID4 so quickly is because other vehicle manufacturers released their vehicles and other people changed their minds.
And it got released because the guy didn't want it, and
Correct.
we were on the next in line, right?
Exactly, right? So you held your place in line because that was the vehicle that you wanted. You had your heart set on it. But he or she may have decided, hey, you know what? This is too long to wait. I'm just going to withdraw my $100 or $500 deposit. I'm going to go buy one of the brands that are available right now, which include, number 1, the Polestar 2, which is actually ready for delivery in Vancouver. Most showrooms have them. Even across Canada, you should be able to walk into a showroom and get one within 3 to 4 weeks. I think that's kind of the timeline. The second best, also 3 to 4 weeks, maybe even 6 weeks, is a Tesla. You can get one almost immediately.
Yeah, they're reducing the prices, right?
Right. The prices have come down. They're getting ready to release a refresh model. So if you want a Tesla today, it's a great time to get one on a deal. You take advantage of the supercharger network, et cetera, all those benefits. But your delivery time will be significantly faster than any of the other EVs from big manufacturers. Right. And of course, we also have some of the other retailers out there that are trying to, or dealers, showrooms, they're trying to unload Chevy Bolts.
And also the brand that you're driving, Kia. I've seen a lot of new models, the Is it K6, KV6 or something like that?
The Kia has just
EV6,
released their
EV6.
EV9,
EV9.
which means that a lot of people that were looking for EV6s have all of a sudden gotten their reservations bumped up because a lot of people have decided to go from the EV6 to the EV9 because the EV9 is one of the first 3-row seated full-size SUV style EVs out there. It's got over 400 kilometer range, 300 miles, and it's all-wheel drive. It is beautiful. It looks like a Telluride, which is or a Palisades if you're looking at any of the larger full-size SUVs in the Kia or Korean lineups. And a lot of people like that vehicle because it has that traditional boxy look. Right? Yeah. So a lot of people right now, if you have a reservation from before, you might see your reservation bump up real fast as these new vehicles release, which is great. At the same time, though, if you want something today, of those brands that I said, those are probably your best bet to get one today. Having said that, though, if you get an EV today, you're going to be able to save money immediately if you're replacing a vehicle.
I can vouch for that. All right. So to answer that question, is it right time to buy? I think it is. Right. Next question, number 2. Will EV adoption grow rapidly? And if so, why?
It already has. We've seen on our way out to Kimberley, a couple weeks ago, we noticed that one of the biggest charging hubs in British Columbia, which is Merritt, British Columbia, this place has at least 4 charging hubs. So there's Electrify Canada, there's Petro Canada, which never works, don't go there. There is Chevron with their On the Run.
Okay.
They have 4 free chargers there right now as a promotion. There's BC Hydro in town. And then just up the road, another 25 kilometers, there's a rest area called Loon Lake. So in this area, it's very easy to get charging. However, during the long weekend, what we noticed is that the infrastructure was overtaxed. Every charger was either filled up or the main one that I always go to is the Electrify Canada. That one was actually 3 of the stations of the 4 were broken. So there was only 1 charger that was working.
Oh, right. So in other words, they need to expand on their infrastructure to really make it grow a lot faster, right?
They needed to add another 4 yesterday. Right. Because if you think about how Tesla puts out their charging setup, and they've been doing it for a lot longer, so they have a lot more experience, is that they do a minimum of 8.
They do. It's like it's bringing up like either 8, 16, and I seen one with like 20 something chargers all lined up in the shopping center. Right. So
and that's not a mistake because they've used the and some people may not like this, especially the people that are not on the grid, is that Tesla tracks your vehicles where they go and they put the chargers in the spots where there's the most amount of charging need. So they actually track your movements, your kilometers, and they say, hey, you know what? All these guys are running around here. Let's put one here, right?
That's why they have those satellites up there.
That's right.
Probably. Mr. X.
Mr. X. So they're using this to kind of put you in an ecosystem that you can't see a way out of because it's just so good. At the same time, though, if you are an off-the-grid type of person, and we know that some people don't like to be tracked, a Tesla may not be the best EV for you.
Okay. So number 3 question is something we touched on in number 1 because, I'm asking what's the best recommended EV to buy right now? Any brands that you should avoid? So let's do any brands that we can or should we avoid? Which brands? Right
now, it really depends on how you are driving. I think from a perspective of speed of charge, the Chevy Bolts and the Leafs are probably your slowest.
On the lowest, kind of low end.
And also, one thing that really kind of sucks on the Leaf is that it's still on many of the models they're still not liquid cooled. So that means that they run on an air cooled battery, which means that they will charge slower in the winter and slower in the summer.
Okay. So that's something to do with the battery technology.
The battery technology, right? I believe only the latest Aria and also the latest Leafs are liquid cooled. So you have to be careful when you're buying a used Leaf that's the issue. Bolts don't have this problem. They are actually liquid cooled. They're very well made. They're actually a Korean design. So it's from Korea that they've rebranded as the Bolt. The whole underpinnings are Korean, and the maximum charge rate is 50 kilowatt.
Okay.
right? Which isn't bad because most of the charging stations that are DC fast are 50 kilowatt in BC.
I think you're right there because in British Columbia, in Canada, there's a lot of Korean brands. Of course, there's Tesla, there's Polestar, and there's a few others.
Yeah.
In Europe, it's different because they have the Fiats, right?
They
have the Citroens. And like you said, you've been to Europe, right? In Italy, and they're driving Fiats. And I saw one Fiat, one of those Fiat 500s.
Yeah.
And that's a fully electric one. And
the 500e.
Yeah, so there are other brands that you can consider as well, depending which country you're living in.
So, what I would say is that if you drive a lot of long distance and you need something that charges very quickly, that's kind of what you do a lot, then the Bolt and the Leaf would probably be two of the vehicles that you might want to put lower on the scale, unless you don't mind making those stops, right? They will charge a lot slower. I mean, to get from 20% to 80% in a Chevy Bolt doing 50 kilowatt hour is over an hour.
Okay.
All right.
Right. So next question number 4. Will we ever see a 1,000 kilometer kind of range from a battery?
Yeah, we already do. It's called the Lucid Air.
Oh, okay. Okay. Tell me more about that.
So the Lucid Air is Peter Rawlinson was the person that was in charge of the Model S.
Okay.
Before Elon got really Elon-y. And then he left to start his own company.
Okay.
All right.
Sure.
Depending on where your politics are at, this company, Lucid, which is LCID, traded on the NASDAQ, is actually funded primarily by Arab money. There's a fund that actually funded this. So even the Arabs are like, hey, oil won't last forever. So we're going to put a whole bunch of money into the guy that created the Model S, which is a pretty awesome vehicle.
Yeah.
But he's somehow made it better with a vehicle that is luxury. So Lucid is a luxury company first. So you won't find a vehicle in their lineup that is not. They're all very close to $100,000.
They targeted high end kind of luxury. And what's the difference between their batteries and versus others? Does it do 1,000 kilometers?
Well, they have a big battery, but they actually have a chassis that can incorporate the bigger battery. But at the same time, though, their motors are super tiny.
Oh, okay.
So they have a very efficient battery and efficiency with the motors because they actually supply some of the infrastructure for the Formula E.
Oh, right.
So this is racing technology that they're incorporating in a saloon.
I get it. So smaller motor, more efficient motor.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, a smaller motor means less weight. Less weight means less battery or power
right?
to drive the electric vehicle.
I mean, the wheels are huge. They're like 20-inch pizzas, right? But the vehicle can go up to 1,000 kilometers. It has two boots, as you say in the UK, two trunks.
Two trunks.
The front and the back open right up, and you can actually throw everything, including golf clubs and whatever inside.
We call it a boot in the
And it looks like a huge vehicle, but when I was driving by one down in Bellevue, which a lot of the Microsoft people are at, I was like, that's a great looking vehicle. It doesn't look that big, but it looks like a rocket ship. It looks like something from the future that everyone will be driving very soon, right?
Nice.
So they do have vehicles that boast up to 1,000 kilometers, and they're larger batteries. And they're quite fun to drive.
Yeah, I mean, with any production car, it's always the first batch would cost a lot. Tesla's first batch of cars were very expensive, and then once you have those customer base, the prices go down as production costs produced and increases. All right, next question, number 5. This is on a lot of people's mind. Is driving an EV good for the environment?
It is. It is because around your vehicle, everything will not die from pollution. So depends on where you want to kind of target this. There have been already studies around, actually there are two Canadian universities, UBC and UVic. They've actually found out with MRI technology that people that have been inhaling fumes from
exhaust
diesel
fumes,
and exhaust fumes, they actually get dumber. They really do. They measured the cognitive functions of these people. Smart people after they've been they've been exposed to diesel and gas fumes, and they got dumber. and this study has been published recently in the last year or so, and this is something that's good for everyone because if everyone gets smarter,
That's
then we can figure out how to get ourselves out of environmental things or anything, right? We have better reasoning skills, right?
Okay.
As a result of our intelligence. So in the general vicinity, you're making your community healthier by driving an EV.
Yeah.
That's not to say that you're not offloading some of the environmental factors somewhere else, because your battery and the minerals and everything that are in its production, there are some deficits to that. I mean, we know that kids are not digging for your minerals now. We know that. Most of these minerals come from either Australia or some other places, and they are cruel. They are not of that type. That is old technology, first of all. And then the second thing is that that's cobalt and everything. And now we've got alternative technologies. In fact, Teslas are running what's called lithium iron batteries. Right? And lithium doesn't need to be mined. It can be
Extracted from recycled batteries?
It can be extracted from recycled batteries. It can also be taken from seawater. And in the boldest move of Alberta, there's this one company out there that's actually taking what's called the tailings. So these are like the wastewater from drilling oil.
Oh, okay.
These pools of polluted stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
That no one's willing to clean up. They're taking that water and they're extracting lithium from that water.
Okay.
Because it's rich in lithium.
Okay.
Right?
That kind of...
So that's kind of good, right?
Yeah.
So from a cobalt, like making gas costs cobalt. They burn it, right?
That's true.
A battery can be, that cobalt can be recovered. But from that refining process, as it goes down, these pools are everywhere.
Yeah.
This company has taken the lithium from that in Canada and have put it towards this use. And once that lithium's been extracted, you can actually recover most of it when you recycle the battery.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right?
That's nice.
So there's two parts of it. Your local community gets healthier because everyone's smarter, because they're not inhaling fumes. Everyone's healthier, so that's a less cost on our healthcare system, which we desperately need in everywhere in the world. And yes, there is an offset in other parts of the world, but even those parts of the world are like, hey, we got to do this cleaner, and they are.
That's good. That's good. So there are things happening to improve the environment, which is great news for everyone.
Definitely.
Right. So let's move on to the second lot of questions. Next 5 questions. So the first one, number question 6, this would be. So do most EVs have 2 driving modes, right? And what's the difference? Do they have driving modes?
Driving modes. You mean like, well, my car has 3 driving modes. It has an eco,
right?
Which means that it cuts the AC and the climate control just a little bit so that it can extract more efficiency, and it just drives a little bit more sluggish. There's normal mode, which is like your everyday driving mode if you're not trying to do those things and you're just driving around everywhere. And then there's sport mode, which kind of sharpens up the throttle response, and in some vehicles
I think that's
squats things down.
Yeah, so I heard from most people who's been driving EVs is that when they drive an EV, it feels very almost toy-like, almost like a go-kart kind of style. And then there's the other mode, which is like a normal, like for example, my wife's driving the Tiguan, right, before as a diesel gas car. And when she drove I think it was a mini electric as a test drive, she didn't like the feeling of that because it was kind of like maybe like said too torquey. But then with the ID4 test drive, the salesperson said, you could try this drive mode, which is exactly like driving the Tiguan.
Yeah, so it's probably either normal or eco because it reduces the sharpness of the throttle. It doesn't kick off as quickly, and you won't reach those good 0 to 60
that's one of the benefits, or I would say one of the joys of driving an EV is having that suddenly boost of speed, right?
When you need it. The other thing is you're talking about regen.
Right.
So when you drive it and you let go of the throttle, it actually slows down. That's more like that's regen. That's like basically taking your gear, hitting the clutch, shifting down to 4 or 3.
It's coasting down. Like coasting. Is that what you're saying?
It's not really coasting. It's actually using the motor to regenerate the battery. You're charging the battery.
Okay, so you let go of the accelerator.
Yeah.
And that's how most people drive, right? Because they put the foot on the gas, speed up, and then let go of the accelerator while it,
The difference in an EV is that the EV is actually recapturing all the electricity and not using the brakes. In a regular car, if you let go of the accelerator and you're coasting and you need to stop, it's using your brake pads.
Okay.
So that's why in an EV, you barely ever wear out your brake pads because it's never using them.
Oh, there you go. Something
Right.
to know. Ah, okay, interesting. Next question. At what percentage should I charge my EV? Like, should I drop it right down to like 15, 20% before I charge? Or do I charge every time I leave, come back, and so on?
At what percentage? You
Yeah.
should never let it go to zero.
Okay.
That's for sure, because you're basically removing charge cycles from your battery.
Okay.
Most people would say,
What's your kind of habit of charging?
I usually charge from 20%, but if I'm trying to stretch it to the next town, I might go even 10 or 5%, but I never zero.
Okay, so lowest between, say 10% is the lowest kind of like.
Yeah.
But average, you should probably only drop it down to 20%, then charge.
Yeah, and there's one thing that most people don't know is that if you're pushing those limits, and I have, when you're below 5%, the battery seems to go a lot faster than normal.
Faster as in?
It will drain faster for some reason.
Faster, okay.
Right? It's either A, your desperation to get to the next place, or B, you've stuck yourself in the middle of the highway. And you're just noticing the drain a lot faster because you have so little left.
All right, so you're
right?
driving, you're seeing 20%. Okay, the next stop could be another 50 kilometers.
And you're fine, usually.
fine.
50 kilometers for 20%.
And
You're
then
fine.
you're fine. And then, but if you miss that one, it could be a bit risky.
It can be a bit dodgy. Yes. So try the charge when you're at 20%. And every vehicle has what's called a charging curve.
Right.
So your vehicle has a different one than my vehicle.
Yeah.
My vehicle has a top out of 77, 79 kilowatt for maximum charging, but it keeps it up at that point and drops off only at 70% to 50, then drops off again to 25 when it reaches 80% again. Your vehicle is a little bit different. It has a higher charging capacity, probably 150 or so. Then the curve has more drops.
Right.
I don't know exactly what that is. I know my vehicle has one, and I think this is something that is worth. Manufacturers should be putting this information out there so that people know which percentages are the best to charge at to get the heck out of Dodge the fastest, right?
Right. So it's like a window where you do the optimal charging.
It's the fastest charge window at the highest rate. So my vehicle is between 20% and 70%. It's as fast as possible. Anything above that, it's a little bit slower. Anything beyond 80% is even slower.
Okay.
Yeah.
So something to be aware of. I guess.
For the super users, that's fine. For regular users, it's not a big deal if you're already charging between 20 to 80%. But if you are trying to break some records or you're trying to charge as fast as possible, this is like extra information that you can use to your advantage.
Okay, right. Next one is again to do with batteries. How will I know if there's a problem with my battery?
How will you know? The car will scream at you.
Okay.
It'll say something like propulsion battery not operable, or it will say something to the extent that you should probably take it to a service center because your car won't move, or you can't put it into gear, or you can't, like, number of things. But keep in mind, most vehicles, most EVs, even a Tesla, have two batteries. There's a 12-volt battery that powers all of your accessories in the car.
Right.
Your infotainment,
your
that's the
standard
not
12
the
volts.
HVAC in some cases, all your cluster, your gear, your
Basically,
braking.
it's a 12 volt. Yeah.
It's a 12 volt, right?
Yeah.
It's the CAN bus battery, right? And then there's your traction battery, which is basically your gas tank, and it powers everything else. Your traction battery is supposed to charge your 12 volt, but it doesn't charge it in regular intervals if you're using the accessory mode.
Right.
Accessory mode is when you run exclusively off 12 volt. But here's the kicker. In EVs, because the 12 volt is not required to start the vehicle, it's only there just because.
Oh, right.
It's like 1/4 the size.
Oh, so it's like tiny.
It's tiny. It's tiny. It's the same size, but it's tiny. It doesn't have as much milliamp hours inside. So if you normally would listen to music waiting for someone with the accessory mode on, you probably won't be able to start your car. No. So here's the kick. With an EV, because there's no tailpipe emissions, just turn it on.
Oh, turn the EV on, right? Turn the EV on, let it run.
This is going to help someone out there because I see these stories all the time. I turned on my car in accessory mode and now it won't turn on. What do I do? Did you drain the 12 volt? I think so. Did you turn the car on? No, I was in that mode in between. Yes, you've drained your 12 volt battery and you're not able to start your vehicle.
Right.
So always turn your EV on. I wish they would get rid of this because it just makes no sense. Just turn the vehicle on. Just pretend accessory mode never
it's
existed.
not, you're not doing any damage to the environment.
No,
It's
just turn it on.
Yeah, just turn
Enjoy
it on.
the AC, enjoy the games on the dashboard, and
Yeah.
just turn it on. It's going to save someone a lot of headache out there, including you. Don't use accessory mode. I don't want to come over and jump your battery.
All right.
You're far.
Next up, okay. When is an update on an EV? Should I always do it?
No.
Okay.
No, you should not. You should not, because it's just like any software update out there, is that you might have one vehicle that's different than the one that they tested on with one chip that's different.
Right.
Because many different manufacturers, many different revisions, it might have
Different chips.
it might be the same chip, but it has one single trace that's different. That will screw up a firmware update.
Firmware. So only do it when it's recommended, like as a safety security feature.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything else, kind of like, please.
In
be
most
aware.
vehicles, unless you're looking at like a Tesla, which adds features, games and stuff like that, even those screw up. Even those brick
Okay.
Teslas.
Okay.
Right? So if you're looking at a conventional manufacturer and they're offering you an over-the-air update, I would wait, or I would see if anyone else has a problem first in your town before doing this.
It's like updating your firmware or iOS update or Android update.
That's right.
So just wait. There's no need to rush into it. If it prompts you like urgent security feature, whatever, then possibly yes. But everything else, I would just wait until
If they're specifically very vague about what they're fixing, then that means it's not that big of a deal. If there's a recommended for all users or some sort of exclamation mark by it, do it. Your dealer might even do it for you, because if they don't do it for you, it might end up in a bigger problem. But most of the time, this is a user serviceable thing that takes care of a lot of infotainment things, adds new features. It's a good thing overall, but I wouldn't do it right away. I wouldn't be the first one to do it, especially because it's a vehicle. It's rolling down the road. And your family's in it.
Okay, so just be aware. Yep. Next up is there a difference between driving during the winter and the summer? I think a lot of people will be interested in that.
Yeah, actually there is. We actually have winters, summers, and falls and springs in Canada,
we do.
right?
Yeah.
We have the extreme versions of all four things. So the thing that most people need to know about driving in the winter is that you can expect anywhere between 10 to 20% loss in the amount of range that you already have in your vehicle.
Yeah.
So if your vehicle was 500 kilometers, okay, you know what? Let's just use round numbers. 400 kilometers.
Right.
You would lose. You would only have 320 kilometers left. Okay, after losing the 20%.
And the reason, because of course, is the winter. It needs time to warm up.
It's
vehicle.
more like this. The battery inside most modern vehicles has what we were talking about, is that it has a battery management system that uses liquid and also heat to keep it at optimum temperatures at all times. Even when your EV is sitting idle, it's using that to kind of keep the battery from freezing.
Right.
Just like how gas vehicles have an engine heater. You actually have to plug it in and it heats the engine block so the oil doesn't turn to sludge. It's similar to that type of thinking where the battery never compromises on its chemistry.
And you need that optimal temperature to make it work to run smoothly. And in order to do that, it uses a battery.
Now, having said that, though, even the battery that's almost frozen will still mostly turn on, because the leaves turn on in Arctic temperatures. It's just that they lose so much range that it's not even funny. So a battery management system with liquid cooling, it's in most modern vehicles, will maintain range for you. It does take a little bit. It's recommended that you keep it plugged in if you can in the winter, or opportunity charge as much as you can, right? So losing 20% is pretty average. And also, you can also mitigate that by using your seat heaters. You can also mitigate that by using your steering wheel heaters.
Yeah.
These are features that may not be in other jurisdictions or other countries because they're hot all year round.
Yeah.
But in Canada, we have these things. Actually, the seat heater is very good if you had a bad back. So that's good as well too. But that will mitigate you having to crank the heat in your vehicle.
Yeah.
And if you have a heat pump in your vehicle, it's actually even more efficient.
Right.
So there's something to think about, and that's
Okay.
something to ask your dealer.
So that's the winter. And in the summer, of course, with the temperatures going crazy high, will it affect the battery as well?
It will,
because it's overheating, right?
Well, you need to cool the battery as well too, because at a certain range of operation, the battery is really happy. Like I've noticed that my battery gets optimal range between 20 to 30 degrees.
Okay.
It's very, very, very happy in this range, right? I get the best range in here. But when it starts to go 30 and above, I start to lose a little bit of range because now the HVAC system set to 22 degrees with heat pump, it starts to work a little bit harder. Right.
Okay.
I do have cooled seats as well too, so I don't have to turn on the HVAC all the time. So that's a choice for me, and I end up gaining some range with that. Especially when I'm going downhill, I can turn off the AC and go down the hill.
That's true.
I can do that as well too. But this is something that most people that are driving their vehicle regularly would not think about. This is more of a kind of a life hack thing where, hey, you know what? I want to not stop at that town. I just need another 30 kilometers to get past that town to the next charger. I'm just going to turn off the HVAC, just like in a gas vehicle. You turn off the AC, you get a little bit more efficiency.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's all about operating electric vehicles. The next up, next 5 questions is about relating to chargers.
Yeah.
So question number 11 would be, do all level 2 chargers operate on 240 volts?
Okay, so yes, they operate on 240 volts. Level 2s do.
Because in Canada it's 110, right?
110 is regular. That's
Yeah.
those are the what we call granny charge. Those are the level ones that the dealer gives you with your vehicle most of the time. So that's the one that's inside your trunk.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
Yeah.
Okay.
So level 2 are the ones that are installed by professionals inside your complex, inside your garage, that are plugged right into your
That's
breaker box.
240.
That's 240 volts in Canada, and they have a maximum, depending on the amperage, and this is the other thing, amps. So most go up to 40 amps, and if you're
40 amps.
you're maxing out 40, and that means that you're getting, you probably have a 60 amp breaker in there. So this is like a house with lots of capacity.
Yeah.
Or a new installation where you've asked for an additional box. You could charge your vehicle up to 11 kilowatts.
That's it's fast.
That's pretty fast. 11 kilowatts per hour.
On average, what about you?
Mine goes to 7 right now,
And that
7.2,
is on
because
how many
mine's only
amps?
on 32.
32 amps.
Yeah.
And that's a level 2, right?
That's a level 2.
240 volts that
Yeah.
you've had installed at your place.
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
So keep in mind too that the battery, when we talked about this in the last question, is that in the winter you also charge a little bit more slowly because of the fact that the battery management system is kicking in, and they want to make sure that it's not pushing too much juice into your battery too quickly. So in the winter, even your level 2 slows down just a little bit. DC fast charger, you'll notice it the most because when you used to get 150 kilowatt in the winter as your peak, you might only get half that in the winter.
Okay.
So something to keep in mind.
So it
there.
needs to be optimal for it to charge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most people, if they have a level 1 charger kicking around, just keep it plugged in all the time, because chances are, if you've never deplete your battery, you'll replenish your battery from the day before easily with a level 1. So if you have that capability, if you have a garage, just keep it plugged in. Level 2, if you drive every day, like over 200 kilometers like I do, I have to have that available just in case there's an emergency.
So we talked about the ampage. The next question is about that. I've seen chargers, right?
Yeah.
Level 2 chargers that can support 40 amps, 32 amps, 24 and 16 amps. What is that, and does it make a difference? So you mentioned that at 32 amps, that's your charger, right?
7.2 is all I get.
7.2. So, and if you have a lower ampage, say 16,
You might get half that.
You get half that. So basically, the higher the ampage, the faster the charging. Is that?
That's right.
Is that right? Okay.
That's
so
right.
There you go.
But your battery must be able to request that. So even though I could put a 60 amp breaker in and get 40 in up to 11 kilowatts for my vehicle doesn't max out at more than 7.6.
Because it's based on the battery that you have in your vehicle.
No,
right?
it's more that so the charger in a vehicle is built into the vehicle. That thing on the wall with the nozzle is only supplying electricity. That's not the charger. The charger's in the vehicle. So the charger in my vehicle maxes out 7.6. The charger in another vehicle might be 11. Higher. So Teslas are up to 11, I believe. Newer Kia EVs are 11 or so.
Right.
But you need to be able to supply that. So the supply end on your wall is what sends it. So 40 amps, 240 volts, up to 11 is where it's pulled.
Now I get it.
So if a vehicle plugs into an 11 kilowatt capable level 2 charger and you can't take 11, it'll only take what it can afford to take, which is 7.2 or 7.6.
Okay, so in essence, if I have a 40 amp unit at home,
Yep.
and I plug into your vehicle, which only takes 32, you will only charge 32,
I only take 7.6.
which is a 32 amps. No?
It's not an amperage thing. It's what it's requesting.
Okay.
I'm requesting 7.6 from the charger in my vehicle. That's all I can take.
Right, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's like phone chargers. Wireless
yes.
chargers are 25 watts.
Yes.
Does the amperage count for that? No, it doesn't matter. 25 watts is the maximum I can take.
all right, okay,
Right.
okay. Right, because you get some chargers with high ampage and stuff
That's right.
like that. Okay.
That's right.
All right. So if I don't have a 20, this is the next question. If I don't have a 240 volt kind of outlet,
Yeah.
how can I get one installed?
I would probably, if you're in a building where it's a strata or something like that, and a lot of buildings are reimbursed for this type of activity from the utilities,
Okay.
You would also have to go through your strata, your council and everything and get these installed. And then a professional electrician must install it because
Right.
otherwise you're liable for things.
Yeah. So based on the building management,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, have it checked out, and things like that. Okay.
Yes.
And then the next question is to do with chargers again, but this is more to do with public chargers. Are all public chargers or charging stations are the same? Same plug, same cost, or are they different totally?
Most level 2s are put up either in private spaces or public spaces, and they are the jurisdiction of that, the pricing and the charging and how it's all delegated and everything, parking regulations, etc., is by the facility normally.
Okay.
So if you're at a mall, they have their own rules.
Okay.
The next mall may have other rules.
So they can set the charging price at whatever they want.
Correct.
Okay, based on because it's their land, it's
Yes.
their parking lot.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what are the same? It's the same plugs. Same plugs for your EV versus my EV versus.
The most common plug at malls right now are either the Tesla destination chargers, which is using the NACS, which is the North American, they call it the North American charging standard, but it's not yet because it hasn't been through the SAE.
Okay.
But it's on its way. That means Elon will have to lose a lot of patents and transfer them over so he can't license that.
Okay.
Stuff will happen. It's not happened yet. That's why all the manufacturers are making deals in the interim. So J1772 is the most common plug.
So that's the
round plug.
The J plug. Okay, that's the round one.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's on most charging stations.
That's
You
right.
can just plug
so
in.
you go to IKEA, you see that. You go to a mall, you see that. It's the most common because any Tesla can use an adapter to adapt to that. So
All
even Teslas
So
work with that.
your car, my ID4 uses the J plug,
Yeah.
right? If I was driving a Tesla, I just need to buy an adapter,
Yeah.
plug into that, then plug into the Tesla.
Yeah,
Okay.
the adapter's included in a lot of the Teslas, I think, in the past, but maybe not anymore because they can make money off of that. I can also reverse that as well, too. I can buy a Tesla to J1772. A Tesla to J1772 charger for level 2 or destination Tesla chargers, and I can plug that into my vehicle, which has a J1772 plug as well.
So which brings me to that question. Can a Tesla charging station work with other EVs, right?
Only the destination chargers, not the supercharger network. So there's a very big distinction. Those
How do we tell?
They are monoliths. They're white and red, and you can't charge at those unless you're a Tesla. But the gray one, boxes that are at the hotel, you could charge at those if you have an adapter.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they are not the silver ones, though, however, and they are the new white ones that have the Wi-Fi connectivity, then you may not be able to use those with your existing adapter because
God.
Elon says no.
Right. So the red and white ones that you see everywhere, you can't use those.
No, unless you are a Tesla.
Okay.
At least not right now, and that's something that I'm
That
sure
could change, right?
I'm sure you have a question coming down the line, and I'm happy to answer that.
Okay, so let's move on to the last 5 questions. Okay, so this is to do with the costs of running an EV, right? So First one is, how much does it really cost per month to charge an EV?
I drive 3,000 kilometers a month, almost, or over. And if I'm only driving, commuting, and I'm charging at home, BC Hydro has billed me around $70 to $72 a month.
$70, $72, they call it $75 a month?
Yeah.
And that's how many kilometers?
That's around 3,000.
3,000 kilometers.
Okay, so let's work that back for a second. If anyone doesn't believe that it could be cheaper, 3,000 kilometers in a
Gas?
gas vehicle, efficient, 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers, right? So 8.5 liters, so you have to get to 3,000. So you have to multiply that by 30, right? 30 times 8.5, that's at least 250 liters of gas a month that you consume times $2. That's $500 a month in gas, minimum.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Right? If I get the math right. So it's at least $500.
You've got a spreadsheet for that, right?
Maybe. But, it's at least 7 times more, 7 to 8 times more.
Yeah. For example, my wife's been driving the ID4 for about a month now. And I think she's only put in like $25 worth of
And that's
electric.
at a public charger.
That's
Imagine
a
if you
public
had a home charger, right? Imagine if you
and
had
she
a home
doesn't
one.
drive that like 3,000 kilometers. I mean, back there and work, and that's what? Probably about 25, 30 kilometers daily.
Yeah.
Daily, that's...
Yep.
But again, she's only used $25 so far.
I drive about 6 times that.
Yeah. Your distance is quite a lot more.
My drive not a lot
Okay,
more.
so you definitely see the savings.
You see the savings because it's not made up. You could work that out by yourself if you tracked your usage for a month in your regular gas vehicle. You tracked how much your efficiency is, and then you took a EV, you plugged that into your spreadsheet, and you figure it out. There's no way that a gas vehicle is
I've
cheaper.
noticed a lot of people have been driving EVs now, especially that my brother's actually got the BM i4. He also got the Tesla as a second car for his wife. My other brother's driving the Ioniq 5?
Ioniq 5, which is the
Hyundai, and that's also very good. And then everybody else is starting to see driving EVs. I mean, this place around where I live now, it's starting the parking lot.
Yeah.
I see like at least 5 Teslas and a few other the EVs, not just the other brands, but I've seen Kias, I've seen Hyundais, I've seen a lot of other brands as well.
You're going to see a lot of brands out here in BC that you may not see anywhere else because we are such a hotbed for EV technology. I mean, if you look out into any parking lot, you'll be able to see 20% of that parking lot as EVs.
And also noticed is that the BC province in Canada is that the electricity is billed or charge per unit is quite cheap because of the is it because of the hydro?
Our hydro electricity, this is for most people, let's just be simple, is that we produce electricity through dams. So that lets us have a greener footprint that also allows us to have a rate of electricity that starts at 0.913 cents per kilowatt hour.
That's cheaper than most places, especially
Canadian.
I heard that in California, which is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. We are also a place where we can supplement that with solar. So if your vehicle, if your home has solar panels on it, it will be sold back to the utility if it's negative. But when you're using it, it'll go towards your bill.
Yeah. I heard a lot of people are installing solar panels that help with the actual cost of the household. So
is it cheaper? God, yes, it's cheaper. And one other thing to kind of add is that my vehicle also has a yearly service on it.
Yeah.
That's no more than checkboxes.
This is the next question. What's the repair and maintenance cost of an electric vehicle? Do you do it yearly by twice
every
a year?
12,000 kilometers, I pay the dealership $105 to rotate my tires and look at things. I've done that. I've done that 5 times.
In the last how many years?
In the last 2 years.
Last 2 years?
My vehicle is now 65,000 kilometers.
Okay, and basically it's just checking the tires and the wheels, make sure they're correctly aligned. That's it, right?
They look at things and they check boxes.
Right, so no major repair on the motor or battery replacement or any of that big thing, right?
Nope. Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay.
But I can tell you right off the bat is that there is another cousin vehicle to any EV, and that's called the plug-in hybrid electric vehicle.
But that's a hybrid, right?
It's a plug-in,
Plug-in.
with a gas engine
Yeah.
and a battery.
Okay.
Like a hybrid, but you can plug it into the wall and get X amount of kilometers.
Oh, right. So you're not relying on the gas to drive the vehicle to charge the battery. You're actually charging the battery separately.
Yes. We own one of those.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay.
And it is a money pit.
I thought it would save, right?
No.
No?
It's everything that a gas vehicle needs. Your regular service intervals.
Because it's still got the engine.
Yep. The only thing that it saves us, and it doesn't because we drive 4 times the amount of kilometers that the range of the EV part of the vehicle has, is that it always dips into the gas engine. It never charges itself by the end of the day because we've already exceeded the 48 kilometers, 50 kilometers of EV range.
Yeah, that's the thing with those hybrids. I see their range is so bad. It's like 40 kilometers. I mean, you can do that in like half a day.
I used to be in the range, and that was great. But once you exceed the range, you are driving a gas car.
Right.
You are driving a gas car. There's no other benefit. The only benefit is that some people say, oh, now I don't have to go to the bathroom every 3 hours because I can drive straight through to Alberta.
Mind you, it needs to be it needs to have a low range because otherwise your gas in your gas tank will go stale anyway, right?
Yeah, and it still uses gas. Every one of these vehicles will use gas at a certain extent to power the HVAC.
Yeah.
And it will also turn on every month as part of its maintenance to clear the injectors.
Yeah, it needs to switch on. It needs to run it. Otherwise,
it turns to kerosene. Otherwise,
right.
So I mean, that's a bad thing. So that's the variant we might want to talk about.
So
that
hybrid
later.
hybrid is something that probably not best. If you're gonna go electric, go all in.
Go
Electric.
all in because you're going to get all the benefits. Also, it's really easy to figure that out because you already know how you drive. In fact, if you don't believe yourself, just add it onto a spreadsheet and figure it out for the next few months, right? Don't kid yourself. Don't use your feelings to figure this stuff out. A spreadsheet has no feelings. So.
Okay. We all love freebies. So are there any rebates on EVs in Canada?
Yeah, actually, the national federal rebate is $5,000 on an EV after tax. So if you paid $60,000 for an EV after tax, it would be $55,000.
That's the federal. That's the whole country, right? And then each province have their own.
Yep, each province, with the exception of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, and probably Ontario now.
Ontario now as well.
Yeah, because I think they took away one of them.
Oh no, okay.
I don't know, but
so for BC,
it's $2,500.
Another $2,500 off, right?
So the new part of that rebate is that you have to be in a certain tax bracket, and you also have to be buying a vehicle in a certain price range.
Okay.
But
there are rebates. It does help. Something is better than nothing, right?
Yes.
Okay. So next up, we have HOV sticker. What is that? And do you need it?
I need it because I drive so much.
Okay.
And I go to a place that actually, it's HOV all the way back and forth. So it saves me a ton of time because time you can't get back.
Okay.
Right? So when I go back and forth to Vancouver or I go out to a place called Langley, the HOV lane goes all the way there. And then I turn off and then I exit off of the HOV lane and then I'm at my
That's like
kid's place.
the highway,
So this is for high occupancy vehicles, buses, taxis, everything. They get to go a certain speed with no slowdowns. As long as you're in this lane, the speeds are actually at or a little bit higher than all the other lanes because everyone's in this lane for a specific reason. Right? And with that sticker, you have the ability to travel as a single driver in an EV in this lane.
Single driver. So if you have a family in there, you can't drive on that.
No. It's a high occupancy vehicle lane. If you have more than 2 drivers, you can drive there as well too.
Oh, okay.
But if you are in an EV, you can be a single person in that lane because you are doing the good thing for the environment and you get access to the lane.
Right. I get you.
Yeah.
So in other words, if you need to drive on that lane, you need to have lots more people. Or if you're an EV car. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So there you go. And it saves time because it is a lane that typically moves a lot quicker because everyone's not trying to exit out of it prematurely.
Okay. And the final question here, how many years should I keep my EV before replacing a new EV or getting a new model? If
you love your car and you don't care, keep it forever. Like, honestly, the only thing that people are afraid of is the battery. The battery replacement costs right now they're similar to engine costs.
All right, okay.
Right? But
okay.
at the same time, no one asks how much it costs to replace an engine when they buy a vehicle.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of a silly question, right? Because there's a warranty on it. So your EV is warranted for at least 100,000 kilometers, or usually 8 years, 10 years in some.
That's right, 8 years usually, yeah.
Are you going to keep it for at least 5 years? Yes. Are you going to keep it up until 100,000 kilometers in 8 years? Many people do, and many people go beyond that because the savings that they've gotten from all the gas and maintenance and everything more than pays for a new battery replacement. By then, we may even have some aftermarket batteries, just like we have aftermarket engines and everything that are refurbished that might actually use higher density cells. My car, I would absolutely love to put on high performance tires that are not rolling resistance and have the biggest possible battery in the same space.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I would keep my car for another 10 years because of that, because there's nothing wrong with it.
That's true. That's
it
true.
drives fine.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
Do I want a Lucid Air? Yes. Would I buy one?
A little bit of money.
No.
All right. So keep it. So there's no need to replace every 2 or 3 years. Again, the warranty is like 8 years. I've seen some people drive after like 5 years. I think 5 years is a time where you might want to consider, but it depends on the costs.
It depends on too that if you have an infotainment system that's not Android Auto or CarPlay, then and it's using just the stock whatever the heck it is, and it's not compatible with that, you should replace it sooner because you're going to enjoy the driving experience with Google Maps or Apple Maps, all the new features and everything. Do it for the technology, but if it's just back and forth from work and everything, and that's all you use it for, and you don't care about that, keep it for as long as you can possibly keep it. It's going to continue. And this goes the same for a gas vehicle. Like, no one's forcing you to buy a freaking EV. Keep your car. It's the most economical thing to do right now. Don't buy a new car for the heck of it. My God.
Only when you need it. Only when when your engine starts
Where
going.
does that even come from? No, don't do that. That's dumb. Keep your vehicle, all right? You're doing fine. When it's time to replace your vehicle, think about an EV and also track your mileage. By then, you might be 70, thinking about retirement, and an EV might actually be perfect for your lifestyle, and it might be half the price by then because the costs are coming down every single year.
That's true. That's true. All right. On that note, that's all the time we have. We hope you enjoyed our episode with lots of questions about EVs and everything. And please leave your comments in the comment section down below. Yes, I'm sure Stephen will start answering those EV questions, EV-related questions. And, of course, again, thank you for subscribing to our podcast, which is, of course, YouTube exclusive. Don't forget to subscribe.
Every Wednesday at noon.
And if you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram at Winston Chim. I'm not sure about Threads, though, because I still kind of still trying to wrap my head around Threads. But anyway, you can also find me on Elon's X now. Yep. X. How about you, Stephen? Where can we find you?
You can X me at Stephen Fung. You can also find me in the metaverse, not the X. X that out on Instagram at Stephen Fung, and also on Threads at Stephen Fung as well too. Happy to answer your questions about EVs and maybe take some ideas for upcoming shows that we can actually explore a little bit further. And our shows are powered by you, so make sure that you tell us what you want to hear, our thoughts on something, or even a topic that no one's covering. Maybe we can do that solid for you.
Sure. Until next time, this is Stephen and I for our podcast show. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.